What's happening, athletes? Welcome back to the channel. Well, the time has come. Ironman California build. And many of you reached out asking how exactly I would structure my full Ironman training block. Well, today's video, that's exactly what I'm going to cover, how you can implement a simple, no frills, and time efficient full Ironman training block to ensure you show up to your race as fit and as strong as you've ever been. Let's dig in. All right, athletes, Ironman California, 13-week training block to get prepared. Let's talk about two very important things that you need to really think about prior to your training block. Number one, what are your specific time constraints? For me, I have three during this training block. Number one, my normal responsibilities of running a company. That's always going to take precedent, and training needs to work around that schedule. Time constraint number two for me is my wife and I actually have our wedding anniversary during this training block. That means I need to account for a weekend where we're going to go celebrate and build in some reduced load. And training block number three is friends. I do have a good friend who's coming to visit, and I need to make sure I make time within my training protocol. So understanding your time constraints, building them into your plan and working around them is going to be essential to staying on task and staying on target. Second thing, very, very important. What are your specific goals? If you have time goals, those are going to be very different than just completing the race goals. So being very clear and precise on what you're trying to achieve throughout this endeavor is going to be essential for you. I have two main goals when it comes to Ironman California 2025. Number one is to absolutely stick to and crush my training protocol. That's the most important thing for me. The race is icing on the cake. I know if I build my plan and execute my plan, I'm giving myself the best opportunity for a successful race. So that's where the vast majority of my focus is going to be. Second goal is to complete the race. This is a huge endeavor. It's going to take anywhere from 11 to 13 hours. It all depends. And so making sure I do everything I can physically and mentally to prepare myself. So when I get into the race and adversity strikes, I'm well prepared and I can put myself in the best possible position to cross that finish line. For me, those are the only goals that really matter, but your goals are really going to dictate how you start to build your training protocol. All right, athletes, let's talk Ironman California build. First, let's talk about weekly structure. I'm going to structure my week starting with about a 15-hour training workload in this format. Running, 2 runs a week. First run, tempo speed work. Second run, zone 2, long distance. We'll talk about that build. For biking, I'm going to bike 3 times per week. 2 are indoor. The first is going to be zone 4 or 5, so keeping that intensity up. Second is going to be an endurance recovery ride following my long effort, which of course brings me to the third, my Sunday butt in the seat bike ride, and is going to start at about 80 miles. Okay. Going on to swim, I'm actually going to swim twice a week. First swim is going to be during the week in the pool, and that's going to be my mileage distance swim. Second swim is going to happen almost every week, and that's going to be open water out here in the Pacific Ocean. I'm going to do that on weekends where there's more people on the beach and lifeguards in the towers for safety. Now, in addition to swim, bike, run, I'm also going to maintain 2 strength sessions a week that's going to focus on upper body work, but I will have some lower body maintenance as well as plyometric and speed work that I'll sprinkle in to make sure I'm explosive on race day. And the last bit of my training, which is probably a little bit unique in the triathlon world, is I practice hot yoga at least twice a week. I do that for two main reasons. Number one, mobility, flexibility, and or injury prevention. And the second reason is heat acclimation. Spending 1 hour in a 105 to 170 degree room definitely helps me prepare for hot races. So I make sure to incorporate that into my training. So that's the core weekly schedule. Now let's talk about how we're going to build to prep for 140.6 miles. We'll start with the run. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that I left off with 15 miles heading into Ironman 70.3 Salem. So that will be my starting point. Over this 13-week build, very easy process, I'm essentially going to add 1 mile each week until I get to mile 18. Once I get to mile 18, I'm going to repeat that distance the following week, then take a step up to mile 19. So it'll go 18-18, 19-19, 20-20, and 20 will be the final long run that I do during my build phase. Do note that all of these runs from 15 to 20, I'm going to have a heavy emphasis on zone 2, maintaining that low heart rate. So I'm prepared for race distance and race pace. Now, heading into the bike, as I said earlier, I'm going to start with an 80-mile outdoor bike. Again, very simple and easy. Each week, we're going to add 5 miles to that until we get up into the 95-mile mark. Then we start repeating those distances. So 95, 95, 100, 100. 100 is always the longest distance I do as I head into a full Ironman. So that will be the last week in my bike build. Now let's talk about the swim build. Starting at 2,700 meters in the pool, which I did yesterday. And each week I'm going to increase that by 200 to 300 meters. That's it until I build all the way up to 4,000 meters. Once I get to 4,000 meters, I'll repeat that with a couple weeks off, but 4,000 is actually the full race distance of 2.4 miles, but with a downriver swim, making sure I get 4,000 is going to be more than enough for the build. So that's exactly how I'm going to build up into the race. Now let's talk about peaking and how I'm going to design my brick workouts. Because of my time constraints, I only have 2 weeks that are going to be available for brick workouts. So it's incredibly essential that I knock these out of the park. The first brick is going to be a very big effort. I'm going to do a 100-mile bike ride followed by a 12 to 13 mile run off of the bike. This is going to give me my first real opportunity to practice nutrition and practice my pacing off of a 100-mile bike. So that's going to be a huge effort. The following week, my brick is going to switch a little bit. I'm going to reduce my bike down to 80 miles. So that's cutting off about an hour of that distance. And my run is going to increase. And that's going to be anywhere from about a 15 to an 18 mile run, depending on how I'm feeling. Making sure I get those 2 bricks in, practicing nutrition and practicing pacing. That is what's going to give me the confidence and the mental edge when I show up to race day that I am ready to rock. Now, athletes, after the build is complete, it's very important to note that now we start to go into the taper. So I'm going to have essentially 2 full weeks of taper. 1 week would normally be, week 12, and then week 13, which is race week, is also part of my taper. So I'm going to take my training volume down to next to nothing for that 2 weeks, except for shakeout runs, shakeout bikes, and a little bit of swimming involved. But other than that, significantly reduce the workload. So I'm ready when I show up on race day to give it my best. All right, athletes, I hope that was helpful. As I said, it's an incredibly simple, straightforward build, and it's built on time efficiency and no frills. As always, please hit the like and subscribe button if this is helpful to you, and drop a comment. Let me know what race you're preparing for. And if there's anything in your training protocol that's giving you troubles, we'll make sure to handle it here on the channel. Thanks again, athletes. As always, I'll see you on the start line.
Bye.